Sam Gilliam, an artist of the 20th century, was best known for his massive drape paintings. One of those paintings, Carousel Merge 2, a permanent fixture on display at the Milwaukee Art Museum. Valerie Cassel Oliver, art curator from the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, made her way to Milwaukee to help bring his work to life.
I think how artists who work in abstraction are often thought of as painting from landscapes of the imagination. Well, what Sam was really doing was painting things from his home and from his history. He lived not too far away from a carousel. And so that particular idea of the carousel is very much a part of his own personal narrative. But the way that he, again, jetsons the stretcher and begins to fold and drape the works into space, into the architecture of space, is really quite profound. And the fact that he would look at architecture as the ultimate background for his work is pretty astounding. So you guys are very lucky to have that piece. It's really a stunning work. He always was open to mentoring young artists, young painters, young would-be curators such as myself.
Oliver became that much more familiar with Gilliam and his work during her time as a graduate student at Howard University in Washington, D.C., giving her an especially unique perspective.
That began what began a long stretch of years of myself and my son in and out of his studio. And so it became less of a professional exchange, even though that was always the auspices in which I went to the studio. It became more of a personal exchange where oftentimes he wouldn't even let me come to the studio unless I had my son with me. And it just became the last 5 years that we were there, coming in and out of his studio was really some of the most wonderful and deeply meaningful times in my particular professional life. Beyond Black art, I think his work is significant to the larger American and global art process and movement, especially around painting. He was one of the first artists to really begin to jetson the stretcher and look at draping of painting. He was also someone who looked at different modes and techniques in making paint upon the canvas, building up the surface and raking and, using brooms and different tools. Artists of his ilk, artists like Sam Gilliam and Ed Clark and Al Loving, it was a movement that was happening at that time of just how does one reinvent painting. His way of staining the canvas and folding it upon itself to create, different types of effects was very different than Jackson Pollock, who was putting the paint on the surface. He would stain and then fold and then unfold, multiple processes. So his way of painting, what he brought to the whole genre of painting was something quite unique, which within the whole history of painting is a very difficult thing to do, to bring something unique into that language. But Sam Gilliam managed to do it. And it makes him not only a titan among African American artists, but it makes him a titan among, artists of the US and artists around the world.
This particular event was a part of the museum's quarterly free day, meant to celebrate accessibility and build community here in Milwaukee and beyond through art.
We're excited to be able to celebrate the intersection of LGBTQ communities and Black communities with Free Day and Celebration Freedom, because there's a lot of intersectionalities, and we're able to highlight those with the artists that we invited to lead art making, with the DJs that we have playing music in the Windover, and so we're really excited to celebrate those artists that are in our community. Everyone is welcome at the Milwaukee Art Museum, and that we really hope that everyone can experience some sort of art, whether it's a sculpture, a painting, or a program that connects them to their community.
to have artists within collections, not just being shown as a temporary exhibition, but actually having them a part of the collection and the holdings of the museum, really helps to shape a narrative that opens the space of our history up for all people. And to know that they're reflected within the larger narrative. And that's very important to happen in all museums. It should be happening in all museums. Sometimes it's not as readily legible because Sam works in abstraction. It may not be readily legible that that is a Black artist. But there's something quite unique about his work that is so inviting, and it opens the door to learn more. And so the hope is that by bringing that work back out into the galleries, that people really understand that this museum is hopefully endeavoring to be a place for all the people who live here in the city of Milwaukee.